Mm-hmm. Let's do it. What's up? I'm green, at least on the screen. But I'm not going to come across to you mean tonight. Even though I'm all Marsy, that hasn't gone away. I haven't even hit peak Mars. That hasn't happened yet. You know what's up with that, with Mars. If you start to learn the art of that, you draw that shit out, You don't do it all at one time. You build up, Stay steady. You rock steady, you know what I'm saying? But this stream, again, off the cuff. Thoughts in the last hour. But life's not rough. But it might have to with this stream, with what I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to keep it free flow and chill. I'm not going to send you a bill. It's free as always here on YouTube. Donate if you want. Donate if you feel called to. But I'm going to talk about some Mercury. I'm going to talk about Saturn. I'm going to talk about Sun. I'm going to talk about all this stuff that's happened in Pisces, which we have a interesting and rare configuration that's happening. Starting in hours here, about 4 hours from now. And goes into the day. And kind of falls into a little bit of what I've done the last so many weeks with all of you. So a little bit of a beat to get me going, to let some people stream in here. I see KP1231. I see you in chat. Scorpio Muse, hello. Hey, go. Triple stars. Triple back to you. Triple back to you. Triple back to you. The stream, in the sense, is about perception, illusion, fantasy, and fog. And things associated with Pisces and Mercury in Pisces. You feel me? But then there's a heavy hitter involved here. A heavy hitter. And that's Saturn. So there's some fear going on. Some resistance. And reality. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff. And I'm going to actually go through each rising sign quickly. For each rising sign, what this could mean and just what I think, whatever flows for me. The mercurial person that I am. So I see some of you come in. I think I can jump in now. I'm surprised. It's late night. Some of you are pulling in. I got some people. Rose Water Lightning. Hello. Gem Astrology. Good to see you. Let's hold that for a second. This video is about Mercury and Pisces. Mercury's conjunction with the Sun. Mercury's conjunction with Saturn. And Saturn's conjunction with the Sun, all within hours here. We're about to do another on the cuff live stream, and I'll do my best as always. All right, so let's do it. Get your focus on, get your intention on, and we're gonna try to nail it down. We're gonna try to take a body of water and try to give it form. So I want you to think about this, literally think about this, and think about the rising sign that you are and what house Pisces is in your chart, and how you want to, well, I'll get to that because I think it happens in stages. And again, this is a free flow stream. I don't know how it's going to go. Jackie, good to see you. Rue Frog, good to see you, and congratulations. That's a disco beat, but I stuck to this one. So yeah, what's up, everybody? A little late night stream, and the reason is because of unknowns, and I am in that unknown place. I'm in that place of mystery, not knowing fully the agenda, fully the story, and my own world, and this week and next couple weeks. So I went with the flow here again. I actually was going to record this and not do a stream, but then I was just like, you know what, man, I just kind of, doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Let me get my message out there and some thoughts that I had. So saying that, welcome everybody. Yeah, listen, an interesting Mercury and Pisces moment here because of what it's about to do with the Sun and Saturn here within hours in the next half day. And, you know, people have been writing about this a little bit. You probably read about a triple conjunction, as they say. And there is 3 conjunctions happening. And, you know, rare moments. But I think from the mercurial point of view, and I've, you know, you've been watching here the last month. I did something called, what did I call it? Something obsessions, cerebral obsessions. Right. And when Mercury was in Aquarius and it went into Pluto, I did that live stream about a promise. And I did a couple live streams about vows. You know, these things with the mind, these things, words that you tell yourself, what you say in your mind and how you construct in your mind, and what you speak and how you communicate in the world. And if we go back, you know, to December, when we had a Mercury retrograde happen, and we did this whole thing with Sag, Capricorn type of thing. And in January, it came out of the retrograde, and it started to move fast and forward. And it went through the whole process of going through Aquarius. And here we are in this Pisces realm right now. And so Mercury's had an encounter with Pluto weeks ago. And now Mercury's encountering the Sun and Saturn. And so this is an important moment, you know, and if you want to look at it from the way I do a little bit about what Mercury's traveled through, let's say your Aquarius house and then into your Pisces house, you can look at it that way if it connects with you with this, like the continuation of the promise that you made with Mercury, Pluto, and Aquarius, and then where it goes now in Mercury and Pisces, of how there's a little bit of exploration involved in the thing of the mind and perception and imagination and intuition, and how Mercury is flowing through that vessel in Pisces as brings those keywords. And also too, you know, Mercury in Pisces is a lot different being Jupiter ruled than Mercury in Capricorn being Saturn ruled, and having a container and having structure in a fixed way of looking, a forward way of looking in Aquarius. When we get into this Pisces, Mercury and Pisces thing, there is a little bit of dissipation, not in form. Like water does, it spreads, and it actually can take on many different forms. And in the explorations of that, with the moods, and especially with emotional content, with Pisces being a water sign, and how we formulate and communicate through not just words, but through our senses, through sound and color, and through exploration and imagination. Now, the other part of this is dealing with fantasy and fog and what's real and what's not. So, you know, can Mercury and Pisces come up with a good story? It sure can. They're really good at it. Thankfully, they are. But the other part of it is what's true and not true kind of thing. And basically the words have no boundaries and no structure, and they can fall off the pages or fall through your mouth, and they're not exactly clear. And then they mutate. They go back and forth. They can be moody, just like Pisces can. So I want to understand a little bit of what's happening here. But Mercury doesn't get to do that per se here because it runs into the sun, because it's seeking the clarity through the sun, and what the sun does burns Mercury down to its purity. And remember, we had the different type of conjunction that happened during the retrograde. Now we're on the other side of this conjunction, and Mercury's encountering the sun, but most importantly, Mercury right after that encounters Saturn. And that is reality. And Saturn deals with what is a lot of times what we fear and what we have resisted. So in the Pisces part of your chart, this is what's happening right now, could be in the next 24 hours, is Mercury being burned through the sun and then having to face, in some senses, for some people, the judgment or the rules of Saturn and the fear that Saturn brings, and it being a malefic and how hard it is. Now, I'm not going to just stay on that point. I want to talk about the other side of it, or working with Saturn and working with the sun and what could happen here. So I'm not going to throw a fear-based stream at you. I'm not going to do a fear-based post. But is it stemmed in fear and resistance and the need to take responsibility and bring reality in? Yes. And it just depends on who you are, how this functions in your chart, and how you are doing Mercury in Pisces. So whatever the case is at the end, I'll see, for each rising sign, I'll give you a couple thoughts and maybe a way to look at it and how to use something like this. Anytime we have Mercury going through the sun, which, you know, the Cosme moment, that small window of time is definitely a pure moment in a sense. So we have that. And then, you know, Mercury is going to do that kind of conjunction with Saturn. And that's a reality moment, right? And we're dealing with form and function and structure. And then after that, Saturn and the sun are going to have their togetherness in conjunction, and in a sense ends a cycle and starts a new one for Saturn-Sun cycle. So it's an interesting series of events, 3 chapters within hours, and that is what I've been thinking about. And, you know, how you stand in all that and how you could stand it, right? So let's do it. Casey, good to see you in chat. It's good. What's up? Let's do it. So let's let's start with Aries rising. You know, when you ever see these all signs videos, Aries always gets to start. I should start at Pisces, right? But I'm not going to, just for dramatics. And you know, for my Leos out there and fire signs and even Pisces, we know you like dramatics. So let's do this. So Aries rising. By the way, if anybody watching, I only got a little bit of you here, but anybody watching, you got an Aries rising, if you feel cool, you can say something in chat. I also want to acknowledge Rosewater and Jackie. I see you in chat here. I got a little bit of a different setup, so how I'm seeing chat's different. Wake me from this, I will wake you from that. So let's do it. Aries rising, you know, basically, remember that actually, no, before I start there, because I'm off kilter here, let's actually show some of the chart of this. And before I do that, I need to pull something up on my end. I sound so formal today. I'm not wild and crazy. Like, it's too bad. Yeah, okay, here we go. So, Anira M, good to see you. So, yeah, let's go here. This chart you're going to see up on the screen is the Mercury-Sun Cosme, the Mercury-Sun conjunction that happens here at 12:42 a.m. Pacific, which is basically 4 hours from now almost while I'm doing this stream. And you could see here, that's the chart. And let's just point out the first round here. So we see Mercury at 9 degrees. We see the sun at 9 degrees. And we see this little 14 here. That's the exact conjunction that happens. I mean, you're looking at Saturn at 9 degrees too. So it's all happening at once, right? But since we could dissect this in a little bit of a stage function, you understand this, okay? So that's 12:42 a.m., okay? And then we will go here to the Mercury-Saturn conjunction that's going to happen before I do this. It's right here. This is 7:07 a.m., so somewhat less than 7 hours after the Mercury Sun conjunction happens, then Mercury Saturn happens, right? So we'll point that out on a chart, even though it kind of looks all the same. There's 9 degrees. You can see now how Mercury is different, but you could see here at 9 degrees 44 minutes that Mercury and Saturn are having their conjunction. God, if you're on the West Coast where I am, it looks like this is rising at 7 in the morning when the conjunction happens. This is very interesting for those who pay attention to things in electional astrology. I'm not saying for you to elect anything, but per se, because I don't know, Saturn and Malefic in the first with Mercury and Sun, I don't know about that. But again, from a different perspective, we're taking a look at that too. We always pay attention to the moon in electional astrology. It's not an electional forecast, which, by the way, those are coming down the line down the end of the year. I'll be doing a little bit more of those. So there's that Mercury Saturn conjunction. Okay. And then we have then the Sun and Saturn right here at 9 degrees. Now you can see the difference at 1:25 p.m. Pacific. The Sun and Saturn will be conjunct now. And so you see within 12 hours-ish, a little bit more than that, we have this type of movement. I will say that it doesn't just go away after that. I think it's been around for the last couple of days, and it will be here, for the next day and a half, so on and so forth. I will say that. I also will say that later on in the day, on this day, the moon later on is going to go into Scorpio. Let's just make a point of that at 7:09 p.m. So that's kind of the quick chart version of it all. To point that out. So there you go. Now, what's it mean for each sign, each rising sign? Okay, so I'll just put my face up here on screen. I was going to make graphics for this, but I don't have time to make no graphics. 12th house, basically. If you're an Aries rising... Oh, wait, hold on. Before I do this, I'm making notes. I don't know if I can do this. I don't think I can. Forget the notes. There's a reason why I was going to make the notes to make chapter markers, because I don't want to do this later on. Aries rising, start of Aries rising. Pisces house is your 12th house, okay? And, it's an elusive house in general, but from the classical point of view, we're dealing with the place of grief and sorrow a lot of the times. From a more modern view, a lot of times we process grief and sorrow through rehabilitative modes in places and containers, right? So, if Mercury's there and Saturn's there, we want to get, first of all, and this is going to be a common thing I'm going to say through this stream, is the process of dealing with what you're resisting in the particular house. So in this case, the 12th house. Are you resisting a type of story that deals with sorrow and grief and, sometimes illnesses, but we're dealing with isolation and what happens? Like, how are you standing in that? And a lot of times if Saturn's there, it's trying to teach you a lesson of how to encounter this and how to process and deal with this in a real way. So Mercury is pondering and dealing with messages in this area of the 12th house of afflictions and debts and sorrow and grief. And are you avoiding those things? And is there a Saturnian story that it's coming your way that you are resisting, that you are in fear of, that you don't want to deal with that reality? And if there is, and you catch this, can you take Mercury, your thoughts, your mind, your processes, and can you bring that into a certain place where it is constructive there in the 12th house, and where you find a clear thought, a clear perception? I'm going to repeat these words this whole stream. Can you find the clear perception with this subject matter? And this can be intuitive. Different ways of doing it, but most importantly, if you can see what you're resisting and you acknowledge that, that is a great start, right? Because you're bringing in reality right in the moment. And if you could take that and, let's say, take another step where you were to come up with a thought, an idea, or a sentence, or something that represents that resistance and that reality that's come your way in this 12th house, that you can use the Sun and Saturn to bring it into some form. And this is very important to remember on this stream. Can you bring the Saturn story into form with Mercury? What stage are you at with that? So for my Aries risings, we want to have a clearness and perception that deals with what grief and sorrow is to you and dealing with afflictions. And if you have a story going on there, keep it simple. It's a rehabilitative place. Maybe it's about creating a system or a practice, meditative practice or something like that to help you deal with processing in that water part of your chart in the 12th house, where then you can bring it into form with Saturn. A lot of times people will have events that happen to them where Saturn comes and shows the reality check involved. And if it's happening that way, you can't avoid something like that. So what I'm saying is, and another common thing I will say is you have to step into something like that and acknowledge it. And that is one simple way, if it's simple, to deal with a transit like this. Also, when we deal with conjunctions like Mercury and Sun, Mercury and Saturn, you're like beginning and ending a cycle. There's some pureness in here. There is a demand for a clarity and precision in thought and speech, everything. In your case, it's happening in the 12th. Okay, so let's move on, because my Taurus risings, which I got an affinity for. I wonder why. And I see an Aries rising. Hello, Scorpio Muse. I see an Aries rising there. My Taurus risings, you're dealing with an 11th house thing, right? And so in astrology, this is like the crew of people, your supporters, kind of like your fans. And your fans and this crew of people or patrons or those people who would support you when it came to what you're aspiring to, what you hear your hopes and wishes or hopes in a thing like this. Sometimes you hear friends in this, but it's like, have you been not clear about who is in alignment with your wishes and hopes, right? And who is present and who really isn't? And can you disseminate, or can you dissect that? Can you pinpoint on that? Have you been avoiding stories in that area of your chart, 11th house, that deal with this? Have you been putting in a certain type of faith into certain people or situations that supposedly have your backing when it comes to your wishes and hopes and all that? But are they really there? And here's a moment where through this clarity and the demand of clarity, that you can, in a sense, narrow down this narrative. Maybe it's narrowing down friends or the groups of people that are really there for you or not, who do support that. And are you being realistic with those people too? Vice versa, of like what you can expect from them or what you want from them. And are you, in a sense, avoiding a particular type of conversation or a possible putting yourself forward and asking for what you need? I think it's really interesting here and important, because when we're dealing with Pisces stuff, we have to remember the other stuff too, not just the fog and the fantasy and the words falling off the table, but the compassion of Pisces, the empathy that Pisces brings. And so do you have those types of connections with groups of people that would support you and support your wish and your hope? And this is just a place for to crystallize that. And can you put that into form? And can you corral that together in your 11th house? And so this is one way I was thinking about it today, about narrowing things down, and also from a not considering the people who would support you, but what is your wish and what is your hope? And have you been riding on a wish and hope that isn't really realistically, it can't pan out, and there's just some adjustments that you have to make. And Saturn here will bring those adjustments, or kind of show up to go, hey, is it what you want? Is it what you're wishing? And are these people aligned with you? And the people who have been around supposedly aligning with you, or are they on board with you? Or do they need guidance and clarity on what you wish for and what you want, so it can be synchronistic? And remember, Pisces energy, I think, wants to embed and enmesh itself and become one with something. It's just how it's done, and we want to bring that into form. So let's move on to my 10th house, my Gemini risings. Weirdos, guys, do you ever stop talking? So this is happening in your 10th house, and that's an interesting thing about stop talking, because if you're Gemini rising, it's Mercury's your ruler, you're always going to pay attention to where Mercury is, not just in your natal chart, but where it is in the sky. It's like you're affected. It's like a Cancer, sign of Cancer is always going to look at where the moon is, right? The moon's changing every 2.5 days. You better pay attention to Mercury if you're Gemini rising, because it actually could help you with when your thoughts are scattered, right? And it could be scattered here because it's Mercury's in a mutable sign that squares your rising sign, right? And it's the 10th house. This 10th house has to do with career and your reputation and the stage that you stand upon, fame, but most importantly, like ambition. And, you know, here, can you, I thought about it in a way like this. It's like, are you being professional? Are your words at this point here with this transit going on with Mercury and Saturn and the Sun is like, have you been professional with your words? Like, have your words been clear and concise? Maybe they haven't been. The other way of looking at this is like how you use words and how you construct your ideas, thoughts, and opinions. And sometimes when Mercury's in other signs, whether it's earth or fire, we know how it flows. But in water and in Pisces, and it's squaring your rising sign, there could be some confusion, or there's just too many words and they don't amount to anything. And is that type of communication and thought on a higher level when it comes to how you represent yourself professionally or as the authority on something, the 10th house, you know, what happens there? So are you clear in thought there? And so here, these three conjunctions, I think, can bring this to you, but it's a type of thing where always Saturn's going to ask you to take responsibility for something or to step into the role. Have you been avoiding the role? And if you have been avoiding the role, knowing what you would have to do and the certain tools and responsibilities you would have to do that, you got to be real with it and you have to corral it, you know, to bring it into form. Again, I'm going to bring this thing. Saturn wants to redefine anything that it's touching, okay? In a longer transit through a sign, that's what it's really doing. And there's the resistance and fear part, but when someone can take in Saturn and understand that it's bringing in a temporary rule set that you might necessarily like because you don't know how to deal with it, then it's a learning process and it's something that you have to incorporate day by day. But when you have a conjunction here with Mercury and the Sun and Saturn, Sun, and Mercury, you can actually crystallize and put that into a singular thought and form. Can a Gemini rising put something into a single thought, a mutable sign? Can you put it together? And let's say you take that thought or that word that has to do with your career part of your house, that has to do with your reputation or how you would like to be perceived. That means you have to step into that reputation and own that and be that. Can you do a thought, take a color with that thought, and keep that as your focus to keep the scatteredness and keep it into form? So that's a little free flow of what I think about this transit going through. Remember, if you don't feel like you're pro, or you think that you have to do the work to become pro in speaking through your career or what you're the authority on, this is a great opportunity for a rebirth moment in that area, and be ambitious about it. Like, go with it with that feeling. Anyway, so let's go to I just want to see in chat, Moon Sprout, hello, and Jan Halverson, Gemini rising, good timing. KC, good to see you. And Moon Sprout. Okay, so I want to keep going here. What sign is next after Gemini? It's Cancer, and we're dealing with Cancer risings here. We're dealing with 9th house subject matter. You could think about it really simply, dealing with meaning. Okay, so a lot of times 9th house, we're trying to find meaning, and we do it through the vessels. We try truth and meaning, right? So there's different vessels of doing this, right? We take a course, we go study, we go to school, go to graduate school. The simple forms in astrology. Foreign travel is related to this, because when you go foreign travel, you're absorbing different realities and different truths, and you might incorporate it into their own. I always talk about this, spirituality, religion, those types of faiths are involved because they're dealing with meaning constantly. So, Mercury and Pisces being here and Saturn and Pisces, they're wanting to reconstruct something like that. And so we want to almost see if there's any resistance in your world when it comes to this is an important word I'm going to use for Cancer rising, when it deals with comfort. Because I think a lot of times with Cancer risings, they're trying to find the comfortable places where they're centered and grounded, so they can emotionally process and they can emotionally be and do that sign and be moon ruled. And so I think it's an important process for anything Cancer oriented. The sign of Cancer is the finding those places, right? And honing it down. But, what is it to find comfort and safety and security at times, which eventually brings leadership? I know this is going to sound weird how I'm saying it, but the basis of that does eventually lead to initiation and taking action with things. But what are the reasons why? Why do you do it? What is their meaning behind it? And it's an opportunity for Mercury and Saturn and the Sun conjunction to hone down what the meaning is for you. And if there's anything that you're resisting with that, why are you resisting it? What is the reasons? And is it because it breaks a certain type of truth that you might have been carrying for a while, and here comes Saturn to be like, hey, that might not necessarily be this thing, or you need to tweak it a little bit and change the rules up of how you do this. And so, a question is what is your belief? And I say belief, I don't say beliefs. I say belief as in the attempt to singularly hone it down. And the way I've been thinking about a lot of this is when we think about bodies of water and the different forms it takes, whether you freeze an ice cube, or there's a bowl of water, or you go to a lake, and then there's a river, and then there's mist, and then there's, all the different forms. I was thinking about like how water spreads for whatever reasons it needs to enmesh itself into things and become that. But for Cancer, it's interesting because Cancer rising, you in this ninth house I'm talking about naturally have a flow. So I don't think it's such a fear-based thing here. I think there's a little bit of resistance thing, but I think from the water trine perspective, from the first to the ninth house, this is a great opportunity to see what your truth is and how you stand in it, and where it comes from, what your body tells you, what your emotions tell you, and then how that eventually you put that together. Let's say there's a bunch of water droplets that are spread around, and you somehow were able to corral all the water droplets, and all the water droplets were all different types of truth that you hold and facets of your truth, and you were somehow able to corral the water droplets into one singular one water drop, right? And that water drop contained your belief, like this one thing, if you could do it. But you see the process that I'm just thinking about here. And that water drop, right, is that Mercury going through the sun. It's clear, and it's gone through its death and rebirth process with the sun. And then Mercury, Saturn, where you corralled it and put it into one drop in its form. And then Saturn, Sun then want to create the foundation and structure then to take it to the next step, okay? So I don't know where that explanation came from. So there you go, Cancer risings. And for my Leo risings, I'm doing a weird live stream tonight because I'm going through each rising sign because I'm in a chapter market. But my Leo risings, you're dealing with the 8th house that deals with that. It's such a weird house. But, is it the house of death? It is. Is it a house of inheritances? Traditionally, it is, because inheritances come from death. It's not just about that either. I more thought about this as a shadowy place, and how the 8th house rules the occult types of things that we deal with the occult, and the practices and modalities we do with the occult, which is in the sense dealing with shadow realms and the light. But what we have to do to understand the light is shadow, and vice versa, right? So, I was thinking about how what happens in a shadowy place, and if we encounter shadowy places and we don't want to go there, like we're afraid of certain things in that shadowy place, and how do you approach that if it strikes some resistance and fear in you, and that's what Saturn can bring. But it's a thing of like, you need to walk through the fear, you need to walk towards the fear, but how do you do something like that? And I think Mercury and Saturn and the Sun here, if you can take the imaginative approach of like what mystery means and what following mystery, which a lot of when I do my channel, I'm in the mystery, and I'm into not saying the whole story. I'm into chapter markers. I'm into chapters of a story, because as humans, we run on this. We all do. We need a story and a myth and a narrative for us to follow. And if we know the story from front to back from the beginning, we won't chase it. But if we don't know it, but we have some cookie crumbs to follow the mystery, it is our natural inclination to walk towards that. Now, if some of the cookie crumbs that are appearing are in shadowy places you're not used to, that deal with eighth house matters, whether it's how you look at death and and there's the other part of this of shared resources, because based out of intimacy, as in you're getting into relational situations that deal with shared resources and shared intimacy, right? So this all falls on the eighth, but I'm sticking more to the more ethereal way of looking at this, of mystery and the shadow places that you might be afraid of. And so can you walk there? And so what do you do with Mercury and the Sun and Saturn here? And for me, it's accepting the mystery and accepting the shadow. And can you tell yourself, and can you understand that it's part of human nature to walk that way, and that you need to walk that way, right? And how can you make you feel safe, or what can make you take the first step is to understand on a deeper level what it means to walk towards shadow or death, and the whole process itself, and the revelations, and the what it does appear through mystery, and the gifts that it has. And can you use a structured process to do this, right? And so can you focus using Mercury and Saturn to hone what that is, and hone what mystery is to you, and to, I can't say from a Leo perspective, can you have fun walking into a dark mystery cave? You could take the vibrancy of life of Leo. Now, Leo rising, in the sense, looking at the eighth house, if you're looking at it, it's not a place you could see. It's sort of like a place, a blind side that you can't see. And so basically what I'm saying, with your mind and with Saturn, can you take off this fear or type of illusion that might come up when it has to deal with shadowy places? And can you get to the reality point of it, like, this is needed in my life and part of life, and to try not to avoid it? In the weirdest of ways, if walking towards a place like this, if you take the natural inclination of what fear is for a human, but you take the compassionate route for yourself of, like, it's okay that I'm feeling this way. I am a proud Leo. I do want to express myself, but I do have to deal with these shared resources or whatever's in the shadows, and I have to take some sort of responsibility there, right? That you do that, but can you add a sense of adventure to this? Okay, can you do that with a little bit of the Leo fire adventure? Is one way to do it. I'm rambling about this point right now, and I'm going to keep going. So I want to get to my Virgos, which, you're dialed in, your opposite side of Pisces, my Virgo risings. This has to do with partnerships, relationships and partnerships, this Mercury, Sun, Saturn thing. And, this interesting relationship that Virgo and Pisces have, they need each other and they learn from each other. And it's just like the shadow side, the polarity point, right? So, I if we think partnerships, we can bring up open enemies and all this stuff. Spouse, like, I'm not saying your spouse is your open enemy. Sure can be. But let's just think partnerships. Keep it real simple. Is there something, in a sense, in the theme of your Pisces house, your seventh house, that you're resisting? And I keep bringing up resistance and pushing out, because that's a Saturn thing when Saturn comes into our world. So, Pisces or Virgo risings, this isn't just the 24 hours. I mean, this started happening last March when Saturn went into Pisces, and you got this story going on for 2.5 years. We're sort of almost halfway through it. So this is a major chapter in this story. And it's like, how do you view the other, or what is a mirror of you, right? And a lot of times, Virgo has their way of doing things, and there's a system and there's reasons for it. So it can, the system can work. That being Mercury ruled, and tweaking the system and having the efficiency and the work that goes behind it, the small steps of work behind it, does build something, and it does bring you somewhere. And we all need that form and process. But I think sometimes the Virgo story can get really stuck in their head, and in a sense lose itself, or really concentrate and focus on completely trying to tweak it and make it right constantly. And we know we can't do that. that you can't make things perfect. You have moments of it, and the acceptance of letting go and letting something go, a project or a thing. But let's just say it's relationships. There's certain things that you cannot help but point out, or you want to tweak this, or it isn't right. But it's like, you start losing sleep, start sitting your nervous system, your digestive system gets thrown off. And I'm saying this from a health oriented side because I'm not a doctor, but we have to remember that the first house, the Virgo rising in a sense, deals with our body and our vitality. All the first house is off. You have to remember this, how you're rising into the world. It's your physical form. And if your rising sign's getting affected by something, it's going to affect your physical form and your vitality and how you're doing something. But in this case, self, Virgo rising, other, 7th house. So there's something you're resisting there. And I'll bring in the more Piscean attitude with something like this is like, just let it go. Everything's going to be all right. It's like, no, it's not going to be all right. We need to do this. We need to do that. And it's like, maybe take a little bit of what Pisces archetype is saying to you. Can you do that? Or I'm not saying you don't do it already, but can you incorporate a little bit more? But can you put it into form with Saturn? And can you crystallize that? So I think I wrote something here. I was like, what do you resist in partnerships right now? And that perception, think about this, perception in many ways. There's the perception that Virgo does, being Mercury ruled, and then there's the perception that Pisces does. And since Mercury's in Pisces, there's that form of perception. It's kind of opposite than what Virgo does. So can you take on a little bit of a different form of perceiving, right? And use Saturn to put that into form and structure in the way you do things. Again, the clue to this is see what you're resisting. And that's probably the place you need to walk to, okay? So, but I wrote, perception brings wisdom is what I wrote. And, wisdom is a Saturnian thing too. So, so let's keep going. It's a little bit different a live stream today. I know I'm just yapping away, but, I made a decision. Unlike the next sign I'm going to talk about, the Libras. I had to say that one. So my Libra risings, Venus ruled. This particular crystallizing moment, reality moment with Saturn, what you might be resisting and fearing and what you might need to confront, deals with your 6th house. And, in a basic way, this kind of has to do with service and work, right? It also deals with kind of illness and health, but we kind of want to think about the way we participate and the way we serve. Hey, Lucy Ferd, I'm seeing a bunch of you in chat. Tarja T, good to see you. But I wrote something down for 6th house. I wrote intuition. So think of more of a Mercury and Pisces thing. It's more intuitive, right? It's not some formulated facts thing like Mercury and Aquarius, even though there's a perception and an intuitive antenna with that. But I think there's a different type of something that happens here. And it's like, can Libra rising follow a certain type of intuition, which they can't help it as an air sign to formulate in the mind and in the chessboard of relating into whatever situations they're not just people, just what it is, but in this case, relating to how you do serve and how you do service and how you do work, right? Your day by day stuff. And, can you bring that into a form and a place that deals with, I think sometimes with air signs, they will come up with not proclamation, but a theory. Okay, so they have this theory. They're going to test it out. They're just going to test it out socially. So little do you know that your Libra risings, sometimes when they have a get together at their place or somewhere, they're watching everybody because they're kind of having a social test. They're kind of seeing how everybody's relating together, each other, sort of scientifically, and they'll look at that. And little do you know that you're part of this social test, and they're masters at this, by the way. And if they're on a positive point, they're gonna see how everybody relates and match the right people, so everything's harmonious, right? They're Venus ruled. It's what they do. Politics of relationships, right? So, but like, how does Libra step into that and serve the situation, not just themselves and other people? Like, how is that done, right? So, can one find structure and boundaries in the way you are serving? And do you feel resistance and fear in the way this works for you? Are you giving too much? Are you giving not enough? You sitting back, not doing anything? Again, service. And service, and I don't think you're a stranger. Sometimes Libra risings aren't a stranger to service, but what happens for wanting harmonious situations, that they'll sacrifice sometimes. They won't speak and say their own voice, or they won't say it in fear of disrupting a harmonious situation that are part of that they're creating. So the passive aggressiveness can happen there, right? So saying that, we want to look at this very simply. How do you stand in service in your world to yourself and to other people, right? And is there anything that you feel like you don't know how to do? And what is that? And can you pinpoint that? And can you take steps towards working towards incorporating that in how you do service and how you do work? Side note, you Libra risings, you got a cat or a dog and an animal in your house, you could practice on your pet, okay? What did I write? Intuition leads to theory, which can be then put into reality form through Saturn, through daily service and practice. And that's what I wrote here. So my Scorpios, Scorpio risings. Okay, listen, I haven't called you out in a long time because, I got a special thing for you. And what it really comes down to is, I have this connection with you for 2 years of videos, but it's not just I have a special thing for you. I acknowledge you. I'm right there. It's really that you have a special thing for me. That's what it really is. And you never want to effing admit it. And when you do, it just comes under some form where you just don't give up all the way. Like you don't surrender all the way. But, I read through that. I let that shit happen. It's like, yeah, okay, you do your thing, Scorpio rising, but I know you're here because you walked towards me. You went for me. And you hide out in the background for months, 2 years or whatever. Eventually, you do walk towards me. You walk towards sparkles of gold. You walk towards me. And I might mess with you a little bit and be sarcastic. I know what you were doing. But past the jokes and all that, I know why you do what you do a lot of the times. Okay? And so I respect that and I honor that. And it's only because you're protective of your world and yourself and the intensity that you live in and live with. I get it. I totally get it. And I honor it. You all know that. Okay? And so I got a special affinity with you all. When it comes to this particular Pisces thing, is Saturn THEN. Here we got a water house, and you're a water rising. So we got a natural flow here, okay? I still think it's Saturnian. We're dealing with the fifth house, which is the house of pleasures, pleasurable pursuits, right? So, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? When you're having a Saturn transit to your fifth, a lot of things could happen there. There's certain responsibilities that pop up and rules. I think sometimes somebody's going to have a Jupiter transit happen through their fifth. Scorpio rising, let's say, have a Jupiter transit, which we did not too long ago. We had Jupiter through Pisces. Were people conceiving? Were you conceiving? Did you have a baby? Maybe. Did you get it on and do your various ways of doing pleasure? Not just saying sex, but other things? Yes. But I think with a Saturn transit happening here, I think that's in play here. And I think when things come into form, some of you out there who are Scorpio risings, let's say you can childbear. I would be paying attention to this right now during this transit, not necessarily this 24 hours, but in general, I would be like, you're fertile and you're in some partnership or one night stand or whatever. Like I would know the reality of the situation of what could happen here. Okay. So it's like saying that, Mercury, Saturn here, I want you to think the deeper meaning of what the fifth house and what house of pleasure is and how you do it. And I think a lot of times, sometimes if a Scorpio rising's in the world, who they're going to do that with, there's things you can do for yourself and how you create in your life, right? Or if it happened to be with other people and the pacing that it's involved there, right? But here, if we take it from not with another person, and we were thinking about like, what is something that you do need to redefine in that fifth house of yours, this pleasurable place, and how you do it, And I think here, letting yourself, can you let yourself fall in to a place of finding a deeper meaning through pleasure? And I'm not saying you don't do this already, but there might be a new way of doing this. Now, the words I'm going to bring in here is receptiveness and release. Now, I know as a Mars-ruled sign, at some point you need to release, okay? So you sort of know that one. Receptiveness is more of a Venus-y type of word. And in the Pisces realm of thing, there is a receptiveness. So it's like, can you let go and be receptive into your house of pleasures? Can you surrender there, right? And this is different than the other rising signs. It's almost like where you need Saturn to help you surrender, to give form to surrendering, and to step in willfully into your pleasure place, which brings vulnerability, right? And so you need to, there's some thoughts I had today about this, but for the most part, it's a good flow by trine aspect, this water stuff. But Mercury and Saturn, you do want to put it into a thought or sentence and form, not just with words, but creatively. And it could be through your body, right? It could be to understand what you are resisting in the connection to your first and fifth houses. And if you dial in on what it is, I think it can come really easy to you than how you are currently creating or bringing in something new in your world when it does deal with your creative output. Simply, too, I'm not saying if you're trying to have a baby to go try to have one in the next 4 hours, 12 hours, but hey, go right ahead. I know you'll do your best. I wrote, the pleasure pursuits that you might deny yourself, Scorpio rising. Can you find meaning and form on what that is, and to transmute it into meaning and form and bring it to a place of receptiveness and release? My owl's never angry. He's just stoic. So Sagittarius rising. Who cares about Sagittarius rising? My opposite sign, I love you. We're talking about home and family right here with this one. And, I'll be straight up. Clear boundaries for Sagittarius risings who are Jupiter ruled, who don't necessarily like boundaries or like to push the boundaries. Can you have clear boundaries, clear communication when it deals with the family part and family and meaning in your chart? Like family, home, ancestry, the past, lineage. These are the themes here, and there's something here with this Mercury-Sun conjunction and Mercury-Saturn conjunction for you to hone in on and not let it pour out all over the place. We have another sign that's mutable that squares your first house and your rising sign. So for me, instinctually, off the bat, when I looked at this, is like it was total Saturnian stuff. It's like boundaries, and it's like the word a Jupiter-ruled person doesn't necessarily want to hear, right? And if we think about this, Pisces is Jupiter ruled, right? So boundaries are extra important for Sag rising when it comes to your home and family right now. And the communication that's possibly having there, or that maybe needs to happen, stuff that's being avoided, right? And that can a dialogue or conversation within yourself or other people that represent your home and family in the past, can it be honed down and crystallized and be clear? And I think it's very important to not pontificate here with something like this, and to really be Saturnian and straightforward and clear as possible in 2 sentences instead of a whole diatribe on a Sagittarian soapbox. This could happen, or it could be other people that are doing this to you, but not demanding, but asking for and for clarity and precision and preciseness here is key. And can it stand in a place? And this is a tricky house, 4th house, because if we're dealing with family issues and other people with family, we know it's not some regular relationship. It's complex and it's multi-layered, and it can be completely generational on a conscious and subconscious level of the stories that we carry through family. So if we're doing deeper work here, which in the end, Pisces wants to do that work in the 4th house, with Saturn redefining what that is. It can actually literally mean somebody moving, or the deed on a house has to get transferred and one family member to another. It could literally happen like that. But from let's say a deeper perspective, because I know you Sag risings are on a quest with dealing with meaning and higher truth, really. So if we take that way you move into the world as your rising sign, and this comes to your home and family, we want clarity, we want boundaries, we want things lined up. And can it from the beginning, middle, and the end, and can the final part of this be in a place of compassion and empathy that is the Piscean traits? And can healing happen in that area, which possibly can, but in this case, using Mercury and the Sun and Saturn to crystallize this, let's say, statement or hope or belief, in that chart could set you up for something like that, but you have to be real. And that's what Saturn brings. There's no wishy-washiness. There's no hopeful optimism, charming words to get you out of situations. You got to be real. You still could be cool with the words, but they have to be based in, they have to be super grounded and focused. But remember, they can totally be infused and initiated through love and compassion. And can that be reciprocated? Now, that is the key, and that is the big question mark. Yes, clear boundary with family members. And how to seek meaning through your fourth house, and can you find those clear boundaries and conversations or thought and crystallized thought in there, and can you find the deeper meaning in it all? And that's what I wrote. All right, so let me check in. We got Sag Rising. Send you a rose back. KP1231. Yeah, I'll keep going here. I can't believe some of you are hanging in here, but I gotta go faster here. Capricorn Risings. It's your third house. This is actually your brain. Honestly, total factual brain production and function here. And, but I'm going to take it somewhere that's more Piscean here in a second. But this would be a good week to, as a Saturnian rule person, as a Capricorn rising, this would be a good week to get into your emotional body. And then if you notice, the very stoic figures, my Capricorn risings, they'll take a lot on their own. They won't accept help sometimes. They're always the boss. People come to them for advice. They don't show tears. Secretly on the inside, they're worrying and have anxiety. This is when they're off balance. But here, you could really take advantage of your third house in this situation here because of the water-earth connection. And so you can actually get into your emotional realm here and put words to your emotions. And it actually is a good thing. And Saturn can help you do this, Saturn is what rules you. So you can use this your chart ruler to help you put some sort of form to your emotional content and body, and use your body and your mind to put it into some place, into a good, healthy container. And, I think it starts with clarity of mind, literally clearing your brain. And an interesting exercise, if you happen to watch this tonight, tomorrow, the next day or so, an interesting exercise is the actual documentation of your dreams, if you're into this. So if Capricorn rising happen to be watching here, do the dream journal if you don't do it the next 3 days. And do it with the intention, like, I'm going to pay attention. Let's say you get up in the middle of the night and you scribble down. Do it. Sometimes I use a recorder I talk into. If you could deal with that, you go listen to your mumbling self. But there's something here. And when you have a major Piscean solidifying moment with Saturn and the Sun and Mercury, and it's crystallized, and it gets past the fear, and you get into your body and into wanting to know more emotionally, and let's say you use a vessel like dreaming, like dream interpretation, you could find some amazing stuff here. And I think it works well because of water lapping against Earth, your rising sign, water, your third house with Piscean stuff. And that elusiveness that could happen with Pisces by taking the step of interpreting your dreams or interpreting your emotional body and how it comes through thought here and then outwards into form, could then help you in a story like this, and how you can use a Saturn Mercury transit. I didn't bring up anything with you in particular that has to do with fear and resistance, by the way, if you haven't noticed that, like I've done every single other rising sign and house, because I think you already know this. You already have that thing down. It's more about, can you let go and use some sort of form to help you let go into the Piscean realm and then bring it back into form. So clarity of mind, and can you check out some meaning in your dreams, is what I wrote. Okay, so Aquarius rising, this is your second house. It's about the moolah, the assets, the resources. What the hell are you avoiding? What are you avoiding in that place? You have a major Pluto transit going on in your rising sign. You know the rituals and the promises you made on my live streams. You know the vows that you did last week with me on the live streams. And we're in a power place right now. We got a lot of action happening in your first house. But then you got this moment here. We know a month ago, 3 weeks ago, or whatever it was, a month ago, we did the Mercury-Pluto promise video, the cerebral obsessions video that I did, the live stream. and you made a promise with Hades and Pluto in the underworld, and now Mercury's moved away and it's running into Saturn. It's in the money house. And I'm like, what is elusive there? Like, what are you avoiding? I'm a little going to get on your case right now because I think there are prospects here in your second house, potentials and prospects that can be fulfilled, that have to do with assets and resources and cash money, or lead to that a deeper level, because you could say from the modern perspective, it has to deal with your idea of your self-worth, right? You got a moment here with Mercury and the Sun, like a rebirth moment here of like focusing on that and letting yourself have that. Like, why wouldn't you walk towards a potential prospect in that area? Does it seem too outlandish? Or do you have some outlandish, crazy illusion dream of what your resource money house is, and it needs to become reality? At some point, it needs to come into form with Saturn. So I'm saying more of a resistance of your success possibly here, right? You're juggling a lot right now because of a major beginning of a Pluto transit, Mars and Venus going through your sign, and I get it. And then we have like Uranus and Taurus and Jupiter and stuff squaring this stuff. You got fixed angles, all the fixed angle people like you, Leo rising, Scorpio risings, Taurus risings. Got a lot we've been dealing with for the last 2 to 3 years. But for me, I'm like, it's time to not be afraid of accepting what money means or resources are and the creation of them in your life. And I think you can have it. I just think you just kind of stop being wishy-washy about it. Those ideas that you have or you've been having here the last so many months, you're having right now, they're brilliant. They're 10 steps ahead of the game. You're in your head, you've walked, you see the future. And no one gets it. No one understands it. And you see it. But Mercury and Saturn here are asking you to take some responsibility in your money house. So I could say, hey, check your bank accounts. Are you being frivolous with your money? Is it blown out of your pocket? That's a possibility here with something like this. Are you fearing about just looking how much you spent in the last 2 weeks? Maybe. But on a deeper level, I'm thinking this is an opportunity, not some fear-based thing to be scared of, but the reality that Saturn brings of like what you can do in your money house and with those ideas that you have, right? But you gotta put them somewhere. Again, I'm getting on your case a little bit, but the great thing here is your Saturn ruled naturally. So Saturn being here, you got a little bit of a penchant for the language, okay, of what Saturn is and what to do the work and how to get fixated and put things into form. In this case, be imaginative in a different way. And the headiness of an air sign and a rising Aquarius rising, I get it, okay, guys. I have a lot of air in my chart. But I'm going to tell you one of the same things I told you the Capricorn rising. Get out of your head and into your body. And what's your body telling you? What's your body telling you when it comes to your self-worth and your cash? What wealth means to you? The possible financial affairs that you've been avoiding that you need to deal with. What happens to your body? Is it trapped somewhere? Is it all in your head? Bring it all the way through and bring it into form. I feel that in the end, this has to do with really, truly, in the end, desire. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we go in the world desiring something, not just a person, but a goal or a certain thing, and we need the resources to make the desire happen. So we follow our desire, and our desire needs to come into form, success. And the reality is in our planet, those forms and what we work towards to get the money or the paycheck or it's coming in, they round out the whole story. And we need to pay our rent and bills, and we need to be able to do things with cash money or assets and resources. So it's like, hey, I know you're desiring something there. It's like, it's time to follow through. You can use Mercury, Sun, Saturn here to get that thought, to get that focus in that part of your chart. I don't know where that came from. What did I write? The fear of financial success. Follow through on the quote idea. Hey, Nestle, good to see you. Sandra, Nadia, Isabella, Nebula. Last one, Pisces. Show us how it's done. Pisces rising. You got a Saturn transit going through your whole world has been getting redefined. I'm going to not say anything harsh to you right now. what I'm going to say to you is I think that the gift of your intuition, your connectiveness to outside source, what source is to you, the way you walk into the world, and I don't think you can mess around these days per se, like the old ways of the way you rose into the world, because of Saturn being in your first right now and bringing reality in. It's like you can't do the way you've been doing it for a while. So you've been paying your price and doing the work, I hope. But with a situation like a Mercury-Sun conjunction here and Saturn-Mercury, I'm not going to pull fear on you or like you need to follow the rules type of shit. I'm not going to. What I'm going to tell you is this. You, a lot of times, Pisces and Pisces rising, when you're on point and when you're balanced, you show us the beautiful way in the world. How we're all tied into each other. All living beings. Our stories. The difference in that stories and how we could take a story on and become that person or that story or that narrative. And the understanding we have when we, in a sense, when you talk about compassion or sitting in space with somebody and the emotional, psychic, intuitive sponge that Pisces is, of how they can, without even words sometimes, take in a situation and story and have the understanding and the complexity of it all, and how it a lot of times leads to a place of love, all-encompassing love, right? And because of that, and being in that space, you have a different viewpoint when it comes to a story or a plight of somebody. Now, let's say the story is you and the plight is you. You know, can you bring compassion to yourself with a Saturn transit happening through your first? And can you find a new way to connect to the divine or source, whatever you want to call this, right? And I think a Mercury-Saturn moment right here helps you out. Can it seem brutal maybe for some of you? Could be with a storyline or two. And it could be that a truth is been avoided, right? That in general, when we got a Mercury-Sun thing that happens in general, the Cosme, there is certain truth that comes to light, no matter what sign Mercury and Sun are doing the conjunction in. And then you have Mercury-Saturn. That's some cold-ass truth. So, you know, I'm not going to get on your case because I don't need to. I think you know what's going on. And whatever you find yourself avoiding a certain truth of how you rise and how you look and engage the world, it's time to do something with it. And maybe you already are. But have compassion for yourself and give yourself a break. The escapism and the illusion and the fantasy and fog, you got to watch out for that. But honestly, Saturn right now is not going to let you escape and walk out. And if you are doing it, I'll bet you got a situation or two in your world that's forcing reality on you where you have to deal. And so you might as well. And can you let go into Saturn? Can you actually let go? I'll tell you, some of the best things in life from an astrological perspective, from me and my point of view, are Saturnian based, because it's what you actually want. If you want things to become a dream, to become reality, you need Saturn. There's the emotional expression and understanding of yourself and other people that you're connected to. We express it through Mercury. It's just, can it be focused and harnessed, right, and clear? I gave an example earlier about taking water droplets and bringing them together into one refined water droplet. You, Pisces rising, have the ability to become many water droplets, and you know the story from beginning to end. If you find yourself in the part of the story where you're struggling, then that means you have to do the story a little bit different this time. But you already know this. You have a penchant to understanding different stories, different beings, and different ways of doing things. They all end up in the same place of love and compassion, hopefully. It's just you got to make a tweak or two, and you got to bring in some tools into your life, Saturnian tools, that things that you have to almost answer to or be responsible for, or and corral and take the water that a lot of times can spill all over the place, and put it into a container to help you out. And by doing this, you will graduate and wisdom comes. And the way you do Pisces after the next 24 hours, but after Saturn and Pisces is done, you'll be completely changed forever. But not like mutable all over the place change, but like solidified, pillars and foundations. And a lot of times that's what you need, to put that water into some form. And it's not just water like that Aquarius had, where it's knowledge. It gets past that at this point. It's like this jug water filled with connection and based out of Oranios, like ultimate love. And we need more of that in this world. So show us the way, because you do it that way, right? Just remember, corral yourself. You find yourself identifying with a story or another person where you're losing yourself into that situation, corral it back. Try not to lose yourself. You still can be receptive and open, but use Saturnian rules and boundaries so that you don't lose yourself and get completely scattered. Keep it in a nice structure. Okay? So that is my weird translation for you. I, in general, want to say as I close this off that what are we fearing, and can we stand in that fear, and can we use compassion as strength? Because being compassionate is being strong, but can it have rules and a nice healthy container for that? And by using compassion as strength, it brings form and brings wisdom. And we still can use imagination and our perception to bring meaning to wherever Pisces is in your chart. And we actually have this fear-based planet that we always harp on that actually comes, I think, eventually to help us put that in a reality-based form into matter eventually, which you need in order to keep going in this world. Take meaning into crystallized form, a singular thought and focus. And can you do it here during the Mercury-Sun conjunction, Mercury-Saturn, and Saturn-Sun? So, I just went on a little, I did it. A lot of it off the top of my head and whatever, but that was my live stream tonight. I just want to look at chat. Sandra L's, Cap Rising, Leo Sun, Libra, I see. Nebula, Aquarius Rising. Saturn is not welcome in my second, I'm sure. Hey, think about what you just said, like Nebula, like it's not welcome in my second. Like you're saying the words of resistance, and I get it, and there's a chance for you to kind of redefine that here a little bit with the Saturn Mercury and Saturn Mercury Sun conjunction. Lucifer says, this has really been a great overview and a way of viewing this transit all around. Thank you. You're welcome, Lucifer. Nebula, I prefer being Delulu with Neptune. I'm like, I'm sure. Delulu. That's it. I wasn't going to do anything to this. This is my way of doing something. I know I'm not going to get all the views I could have done by doing a regular video. It's long. I'll try to chapter mark it. Some people watching, if you're watching this and you notice the chapter marker when your rising sign happened, you can put that chapter marker in the comments. You could say, oh, Aries rising starts at blah, blah, blah. That can help me, but I might spend some time afterwards here to chapter mark it. And that's my version of all this. A really great moment in astrology. Do we take the classical view of what Saturn brings? Yes, but you know me, I mix it up. I'm trying to find a way for understanding how one can understand astrology and how they can at least take it in. Even if you can't take any action based on the transits, that you have an outlook and a different perspective, especially if it's a difficult transit. And maybe you can't do anything with certain things at the moment, but if you have a little bit of understanding, it at least can answer some questions, right? And at least put you on a path where you're not beholden to something, but where you got, just with understanding, I say, an acknowledgement is 50% of a battle, And after that, it's just timing and taking steps. The great thing about Saturn is it kind of forces you to take a step. Like it kind of brings that, and that's why you say bring into form. Traditionally, Saturn is the last planet. It wasn't the outer body planets. Saturn was death. It was the limit. And it's what happens before that death and limit of like the constructive universe and how we deal with the inner body planets, and then the dreams and hopes of Jupiter, and then how where Jupiter runs into Saturn, and how those visions and proclamations, they need to be informed, and it's just reality of how it's supposed to work and how it can work, right? And so it's an unavoidable process. So when we see, Mercury Saturn conjunctions, words need to be clear, thoughts need to be clear, and the opportunity is there to be clear. And it just depends on your life whether it's tough going or free flowing, right? And you throw in the sun in all of this within hours. You have a sneaky triple conjunction. And I really like Mercury Saturn situations because I think it's really easy. I won't say easy, but I think it's totally touchable and constructive of what you can do, no matter how tough the situation is or whatever it is, that it's pliable. You can touch it and mold it. And so, that's part of the reason why I went live tonight. Is like, can I do this on the fly and test myself? And so on and so forth, okay? And plus, I got a lot going on right now, so I couldn't make a regular video with the graphics I wanted. I'm wearing a scarf. There's chocolate waiting for me. And that's what's up. I want to say thank you to those who jumped in. It's pretty good late night to have at least 35 to 40 some viewers that I've had consistently. For those here, who know me, for those who are joining me, who've never seen me before, I'm Nicholas Polymonakos, Sparkles of Gold. I'm sparklesofgold.com. I'm a practicing astrologer. I love doing one-on-one readings. It's the magic happens there, at least for astrology with me. And I just like to have a good conversation with people and mirror and see where we go with working with transits. If you happen to ever be interested in getting a session with me, you can do that. Saying that, I will be personal here at this point to tell you something. I have an 11th house, Pisces house, so we're dealing with like community and groups and people who would support me, right? And I've had Saturn going through there and Jupiter first when Jupiter is in Pisces. And I think about my journey here on YouTube and online and, personal things that I've done ritualistically with stuff like this and the realities that have come my way and where I've been really humbled and humbled with an 11th house story in my life and the intentions that I put out several years ago. And I was wondering, how is Saturn transit's going to be through my 11th with you possibly watching, whoever you are out there, as a supporter of my vision and dreams and my hopes and my wishes, and the dynamics between that and how sometimes it doesn't flow and one can lose followers or Patreon members, but that's understandable. I get it. But what am I asking myself in all this? And what am I asking you? Human, watching me, following me, right? What am I asking of? What's my clarity? And I want to be clear here. Here's my reality, okay? I need clients to pay the bills, to keep a practice going. So there's the steps someone does do that. And now you've seen the various steps a lot of astrologers and practitioners do. I haven't done some of those steps like teaching yet or writing horoscopes out or personal. It could be. I have some maybe things I might do later. But my bread and butter has been, and what comes naturally is talking to you on lives or on videos and on one-on-one sessions, right? So, there's that. But so, yeah, I want to keep making a living at this. And I need the support of those who connect with me. I'm not a groveler. I'm not going to do that. I'm just trying to be my authentic self, and whoever comes towards and how we meet each other and we find ourselves on a journey, and I really mean this, I'm there and you're there with me, right? And there's the reality of making money. But the higher perspective for me, the other reason why I do this, what truly drives me, is my wish and my wish with what I do here on YouTube and what I want to do is I want to make a difference. And the way I want to make a difference with all of you or any future viewer is I want to be me. And the wackiness and the thoughts that come through in my daily life since I can remember as a kid, I've always was social and engaged, but I led a secret life. And I still do in one way, where the ideas and the visions that I have in dreams and in my daily life, I never did well in school ever, is because I was a dreamer. I was somewhere else. I just needed other tools or a place for me to channel my dreams and visions and my weirdness. So I always kept it to myself. One day, in my early 20s, I discovered a camera. And I started to shoot black and white film. And I found my voice. And I found my voice on the streets, chasing decisive moments, as Cartier-Bresson used to say. And it became my life. And I finally had a voice. I had a tool and a voice for what I saw in the world. And you can imagine a Gemini, Mercury and Gemini, and the rest of my chart Plutonian, what I would encounter in the world just by myself, secretly. And pictures could translate that message. And could I capture those profound moments in an instant? And that is an art. And that's what I did for years. And astrology came into my life, and music came into my life, and creativity and creative people. Very lucky, but a hard journey. And I lost all that. Various reasons. As astrology and tarot and other modalities, I was always in my life, as those tools could bring form to my visions and my dreams and the uniqueness that I saw in the world and the uniqueness that I see in people and my intuitive understanding and my struggles with this and depression with feeling not connected to my passion, to my creativity, to that intuitiveness. And a lot of times people have this too. They have it. They know they have it. They just don't know how to put it into form. And I've been lucky enough in my life to go through Plutonian situations and to find form. And here I am. So my 11th house, my wish, my dream is I'm putting form into this story I've been carrying with me. And if I can somehow do this for myself and elevate myself, I'll know then before I'm into ashes or 6 feet into the ground that I at least pulled some of it off. But I'm not completely selfish in all this, because it includes all of you, and I'm doing a thing where I'm trying to help people and to connect one-on-one and in a community-based thing too. So those streams I've done in the last month about a promise and making vows, it's for you, and I need clients, but I'm thinking about something else. I'm thinking about what I've always carried in me. Can we as a group, as a community, as a world, make something new? Change things. And I am cynical as they come at my age, because I've been through things that have made me hard. Cynical towards love, cynical to whether groups of people can actually get along and pull shit off. And I've been there, but I'm kind of back into a place here in the last 2 years of doing YouTube, where I'm building my business and at the same time seeing the effects of what I can do for people and what people have naturally reciprocated towards me, not just financially, but like the effects in their life and what the path they're trying to follow, their dream. And can I help in their dream? So do I need to make money? I do. But inherently past all that, I'm on a mission to something else. And that is really what my dream is, and what my 11th house is can I find the crew and people to help me support my message? Because inherently, I'm looking out for the world, and I want things to change, and I want things as people, a community, to get through the bullshit and to really come from a place of compassion and love. That's who I am, no matter how hard I come across. And that's my thing. And that's what I want to do with my uniqueness and my wackiness, and bring in people on my channel, or the interviews, or the connection with you, a possible client, I want to see you succeed. I want to see you change. I want to see you get past your fears. And if I can help you do that, I'm down. Or I'll lead you to somewhere else where other people or other situations can help you do that. And I mean this shit. It's who I am. So saying this, saying this on the stream, and I'm doing this for a reason too. Because what you see here and what's behind me, it's all going to change. And for me, I have to remember, even with this change of what I built up with what you see behind me, the owls, or what you wonder what's behind here, or the books I presented to you, or these channeling things that I've done intuitively, there's a deeper code. There's a deeper story going on here that I want to fulfill. But sometimes in all that, you got to be ready to switch up and change. And that's what I'm telling myself right now. Do I need subscribers? Yes. I'm going to get them this year. Am I going to change the way I do things? Yes. Is this background and the situation I'm in right now change? Most likely. So, saying that, and thank you for listening, if you notice that I'm not around here soon or something like taking a break, it could be a week. It could be, I hope it's not longer than that. I don't know. But know that I am in my Taurus rising way, looking at the Pisces house, 11th house. I'm kind of evaluating and seeing who's got my back, who is on the journey with me, and how can I keep that in focus, and how can I as a person, Nicholas Sparkles of Gold, also change and use Saturn to try to go, okay, it's time for me to get out of some habits I have with this and bring in a new way of connecting with people, so the story keeps moving, if that makes sense. Okay, so long-winded speech there. I wanted to be real with you all about what is happening with me. I feel really confident about it all. There's definite things that I need to take care of, or challenges and stuff, but I don't feel down about it, actually. I'm stressed a little bit, but I feel pretty confident, and I want to be a better astrologer, a better YouTuber, a better person. And so thank you for listening and supporting me. And I hope those who've made it this far, you get what I'm saying and feeling. Being very straight up with you tonight. Okay, so saying that, I'm gonna look at chat. Yeah, and I again use this, in a couple hours here, or even tomorrow. Use the Mercury Sun. Use Mercury Saturn. It really, and with Pisces, can you taking Pisces and being able to put it into form in a word or a color, or the different ways Mercury and Pisces does communicate. Poetry, you finish the poem, you finish the sentence is clear, the painting has a frame, the music track has an added percussion, something. These are the ways Mercury and Pisces works. It's not just the word, So throw a drum track in there. Thanks for your comments, everybody. It's time for me to go. It's an hour and a half in. I got to chapter mark this thing, and that's what's up. Yeah. Mercury is going to do an amazing sextile to Jupiter after all this tomorrow on Thursday. So check that out. After all this Mercury stuff, then Mercury connects with Jupiter and Taurus and Earth sign to help it out. Really interesting 48 hours here with Mercury. Venus is going to do a sextile with the North Node on the same day. And then all of a sudden, it is March 1st on Friday. So I'll lead out with this. March 16th in Tucson, Arizona. I'll be in person talking at a live podcast for the Cosme Astrology Center, their group that Lisa runs over there. I'll make sure I'll throw that in the links here after I'm done in the description. If you're in the Tucson area, anybody there, please come by. You get to see me in person. It'll be Taylor and I and Lisa talking on stage about the eclipses and the transits of April, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Anybody out there got a place for me to stay? They're in the eclipse path. In the United States, I'm willing to fly as long as I was going to fly into Austin. The ticket prices are $1,000. That's why I messed up. If you're in the eclipse path somewhere and you got a place to stay and it's affordable for me to fly in there, I'm down to do this for the April 8th eclipse. Send me a message. Hit me up in the comments. It's not letting you send a super chat. Oh, that's okay. Thank you for trying. Thank you for trying. Let me do something right here too. But yeah, so there's that. You know, if I can somehow pull it off, I will. I'm gonna do a bunch of links here. I'm gonna send some links here. You just gotta scroll down. Where is my chat window? Here is a link to a bunch of stuff, and if you scroll down there, you see my PayPal and Venmo. But the intention, Esmeralda, thank you. I don't know why it's not working. Okay, Nestle, I'm gonna see you in Tucson. It's gonna be good, huh? Yeah, I just talk about whatever. I'm psyched. Really psyched to go to Tucson and see the environment and the weather and desert air and stuff like that. Okay, there's my links. Hold on, I'll pull up the. This beat in my head, man. I'll put this link in chat. This is the post that goes to, the event here at Cosme with Lisa. And if you go to her Instagram profile, you'll see the links there. I'm going to send a newsletter out, I think maybe next week about this too. I want to thank everybody in the last month that booked with me. A lot of good conversation now, good stuff. A lot of you Aquarius risings and Aquarius has been good to talk with you. Rare stuff right there, by the way, because you guys are weirdos. And it's a different kind of conversation, and I dig it, okay? I dig it. All right, so thanks for being late night with me tonight. I got to make a thumbnail for this video. And all right, Miko, thanks. Yeah, I'm loving the beat too, okay? So see y'all. Let me sign off here with some visuals. And look forward to connecting soon, okay? My links are at sparklesofgold.com. Follow me on Instagram, please, and on Threads. I got stories I'm always putting up. And yeah. My face just went green. Look at that. Let's do it. Go to your Pisces part of your chart. See if there's anything you've been resisting there. Or move through the fantasy and fog and illusion in the Pisces part of your chart. And use Mercury and Saturn to find a clear vision, clear perception, and smash that illusion. Find the meaning in it all. And put it into form and ritualize it. And know you can always base it in faithfulness, compassion, imagination. Okay? And use Saturn to help dedicate yourself to this. And along the way, forgive yourself. All right? Until next time, I'll see you on the next video and live stream.